Hello. I'd like to deliver a lecture on political activism in 1890s in um, Bohemia, or especially among Czechs. So we know that the end of the toughest government has been marked by quite a radicalism, which comes from the progressive movement, which was part of um, it was one of the streams of the Czech party, and there were even the other radicals among the socialists and the others. Especially the young generation was very active at the time. There was a strong civil reaction upon Punktace agreement, and as the political scene has been changed during the time of transfer of power from old Czech to young Czechs, especially after election 1891, we can see the rise of political activism which comes from below. There has been Czech-German tension, especially since the May in the Czech Land Diet. There was a technical obstruction of the Land Diet, and there was also a lot of unrest throughout the summer. Some of them were related to the celebration of birthday of the emperor during the August, and all the tension which was accompanied by marches of students and young radicals ended up with introduction of martial law. So there has been Prague and the surrounding region under this act of martial law. So it wasn't really possible to continue in this kind of activism, and especially the Austrian administration was trying to find some traitors or some organizers who can be or who might have been responsible for this kind of political unrest. It's necessary to say that there was no organization which has been covering this kind of activism, obviously. So the radicals from Young Czech Party were very active, but not only them. So there were also young socialists, there were workers, students. A lot of demonstration comes from slightly different backgrounds. We can see that the Czech political or cultural life has been under the surveillance since 1892. That's the period when the Beseda Sladkovsky, or in English, the Sladkovsky Association, culturally active association, has been dissolved by Governor Thun. So it means that even at the time, and there has been a strict, I would say, a stricter approach from governmental side. So as I have already mentioned, there were workers, students protesting, and there was press very active, especially young Czech press from both parts, from the People's Party in Moravia, but also mainly in the Bohemian part from Young Czech Party. So there have been some arrests. So authorities were arresting progressive members of different origin, different kind, but there was a prefabricated organization which has been called Omladina. So Omladina means youth, young people, so the youth, and they have been created by the governmental administration as some kind of organized secret organization which stands against the emperor, the state itself, or symbols, and it's necessary to say that there were no proof that, or no evidence that there were such people. So there has been arrested 76 individuals, including intellectuals, who were the workers, students, and also the group. Among them, we can find Alois Rašín, Antonín Hein, both Boris Hein, and also the others who've been representing the intellectual leaders. From those people, 68 of them has been found guilty from different anti-state crimes. So the process started in February 1894. These people were alleged of participating in a secret organization which was called Omladina, as I already said, and it was there were the journal, the magazine which was called Omladina. There were the socialist group called Českoslovanská Omladina, but These were not the most active group. The name was just taken as a label for the group of people. And some more active people have been found guilty, even though they have been defended by the great lawyers. So their defense had been Karel Baxa, the future mayor of Prague, Zoransky, the head of the People's Party, very active lawyer, and then after a professor at Charles University. So as I mentioned, 68 of those has been sentenced to imprisonment, and well, the sentences has been quite long, so up to 8 years, and some of them ended up here in Prague in Pankraz prison. So if you go to Pankraz, the nowadays part of Prague, it's famous for the prison there, and Bory is the newly built prison in Plzeň. It is necessary to say that there were some informants, some people who collaborated with the officials. So it was Rudolf Mrva, the person who revealed some of the names, especially the those workers and I would say less important people in terms of the Mladina trial. And during at the end of the year, he had been assassinated. So there were two trials. One of them with the Mladina people and students, workers, and all that local Mladina movement, the secret group, and then the process with the murderers of Rudolf Mrva. And those people have been sentenced each to 10 years, and well, they were excluded from the amnesty, which came after. So amnesty has been applied for those who were active during the Mladina movement, or how to call it, the progressive movement, but not to the murderers of Rudolf Mrva. So the very important figure of the progressive movement was Alois Rašín, a very famous leader of the Young Czech Party, someone who later cooperated with Karel Krama. They at least been in prison during the First World War, and after the war he became the prominent, the important first Minister of Finance of the Czechoslovakia. Also, Antonín Hein, one of the intellectual organizer, co-founder of the future Radical Progressive Party. There was also Karel Sokol, philosopher, literary advocate, someone who been introducing the foreign literature to Czech reader, Antonín Žižek, another politically active person related to Young Czech Party, charismatic organizer. So they were the Young Czech Party members. Antonín Veselý, who've been rather focusing on the leftist socialist movement. It's necessary to say that those young progressive, they have quite a lot of interest into the women's rights. So there has been calls for women's emancipation, which was represented at the time by Eliška Krásnohorská, the most progressive members. So they've been also advocating universal suffrage and existence of labor organizations. So better conditions for workers, and the institution and the organization association of the workers were supported by those people. So fighting for workers' rights, women's rights, and also based upon the Slavic solidarity, so cooperation with radicals in all the Eastern Europe. So social issues and radical ideas has been also present among the Czech Party members, and it led to the division and friction among the members. So it somehow the trial somehow galvanized the future of the leaders in Czech politics, and it exposed it showed that there is some kind of authoritarian approach among the Austrian elites, and there has been generation division between the young student intellectuals, laborers, the workers, and those a bit older members of Young Czech Party that we can call them the old radicals, like Julius Gregor and this. So all the trial laid foundation to Radical Progressive Party, which was very active during the time of the during the crisis 1914, the party which always counted with the higher independence of the Bohemia, not only within the Austrian monarchy, also possibly in independent state. It's necessary that the Omladina trial had a huge impact upon the Young Czech Party. We can see that in the Nymburk resolution. So there has been a Nymburk session where the program of the Young Czech Party has been discussed during the September 1894. So there has been shown the fractures within the party itself. So after the radicalism reached the summit, there has been some kind of internal discussion how to suppress the radicalism. So the radical wing has been weakened at that time. There were the moderates and there were the radicals. Radicals were uncompromising. They were fighting for Czech state rights, and they stood for the passive opposition against the government, the German ruling majority, and there were moderates who were rather for constructive opposition and cooperation with the government if they are the same opinions and if they meet their demands as well. The previous efforts in the both Imperial Council, Vienna Parliament, and Czech Landtag failed, and the party has been in political isolation. So there has been need for some kind of change. So that's why they have met in Nymburk. Obviously, Nymburk has been chosen for a specific reason. So it was outside the martial law distriction, so out of Prague. So there was no place for punishment or punishing those political activities. It's necessary to remind you that the Omladina trial and the sentences had been a bit more severe just because of the martial law, which was in Prague. So the judges used the martial law and high sentences for punishing those radicals. So there was internal debate within the party. There was a real fear that those progressivists would empower the radical factions, and they would definitely change the party's agenda and would make some kind of anti-system party which couldn't cooperate or wouldn't effectively work in Vienna Parliament. There have been also heard the other critics, like the former or the group which comes from the realist background, so Masaryk and Herben, two guys who were closely cooperating, and there has been a critique from the radical leaders who were expressing this dissatisfaction with the party leaders and their decisiveness, obviously. So what were the provisions of the Nymburk resolution? So what was the final conclusion? The core principles was the reaffirmation to commitments of the state rights. So we should the political party of Young Czech should stay upon the requirements of Czech state law, as well as civil liberties. There has been opposition to German dominance, Austrian-Hungary. So both Austrians and German-speaking Austrians and Hungarians are seen as those who has opposite ideas and goals than the Slavic and the Czech political minority, but in terms of real numbers, the social majority. And there's been returning back to original programs of 1889-91. So Punktace agreement had failed, and there is no space for a revitalization of this kind of agreement. And there has been a strong advocacy of the discipline and measure public statements. It means that the party should avoid political isolation. So the radicalism and should be the question of the past, and there must be some kind of moderate opposition or active opposition, which has certain dignity among the opponents, and the credibility of the party should be restored. And there was allowed conditional alliance with the other opposition factions, but there was a rejection of the pro-government stance. So those groups which were cooperating with government has been should have been seen as opponents. So no cooperation with the government, the first thing, and unitary approach with the Moravians. So try to find a Czech Moravian front which would cooperate in political agenda. So the fragmentation has been rejected, and there was a critical stance against the clerical Catholic parties. So the Czech the dominant Czech political party and Czechs should stand on the secular position. And there had been collaboration with social democracy, so supporting the workers' rights, so accepting some kind of radical questions, because it was necessary to deal with the workers and their position that was kind of heritage of the toughest government as well, which started dealing with the terrible situation of workers. So those radicals has been marginalized, and that's why a lot of progressivists departed the party, forming the new radical progressivist party, which started to exist 1897. Some of the leaders died, like Julius Gregor, or they left the party, retired, like František Tilscher, and there has been kind of a change in change in approach. So radicalism has been left, and party had been based upon the idea of kind of state building force, which led to the future. This approach led to the future program, which was called by Karel Kamář, one of the leaders of the party. So positive, which was called positive politics. So positive politics means that you can cooperate with government on those bases, which are also acceptable among the general idea of state right and civil liberty. So whatever is in favor of the nation would be accepted. So there has been the critique coming from the realists. Masaryk dismissed the resolution, and he also decided to leave the party. So it's necessary to say that the Nuremberg conference and the results of the conference, the session, has been seen as a kind of transitional meeting from radicalism to pragmatism, and it somehow created the party which went through the latest era of Habsburg rule as we know it. I'd like to mention Tomáš Masaryk as one of the realists, the philosopher, intellectual leader of the nation. He entered the Young Czech Party under in the realist group during early 1890s, but he saw himself somewhere else. So party was ideologically divided, and Masaryk was not that kind of radical, not the old one, not the young one. He was rather intellectual, based upon principles, and he didn't like that kind of confrontational style, both the young confrontational style of the Gregor as well as those young radicals. So there has been old grievances between Masaryk and also national newspapers led by Julius Gregor. All that history, which we have already spoken about, was related to manuscripts, the rukopisy fight, and he was the lesson dealing with long-term ideas, what the nation and national politics should be based upon, and also introducing other ideas than the nationalism, the pure nationalism. What is related to the end of the Masaryk departure was so Šramota affair. So František Šramota, the lawyer from Moravia, accused Gregor of collaboration with Governor František Thun, someone who introduced the martial law. So if there is the cooperation with the representative of government, that might be a problem. So there has been idea that there was a letter to Thun, which was showing the Gregor's servility to the governor and also the government. And Šramota claimed that Masaryk saw the letter and that it was that he was a witness. So the problem was that Masaryk was he admitted meeting Thun. He criticized where Thun criticized the Czech radicals, including the Gregor, but he refused to read or confirm the content of the letter. Based on ethical concerns, it was always a question. And but he reported the conversation to colleagues, including Gregor, soon after. So what came during what's happened during April 1893? That was accusation from the new old Czech press, so especially Moravsky, and Gregor demanded a public confirmation or denial of the letter's existence. Masaryk declined that, preferring to solve it internally. So there was a Masaryk who knew something, but he hadn't decided to support the Gregor's idea, but he also didn't go strictly against František Šramota. So his stance was somewhere in between. There was historical tension between Gregor and Masaryk, and obviously party should have decided during the August 1893. The party's committee absolved Masaryk of direct involvement, but criticized him for not trying to solve the scandal. And Masaryk obviously decided to criticize the committee, and he was defending his moral integrity, so his personal integrity, and that's why he decided. Afterwards, he decided to become a pure intellectual, someone who is focused on educating the nation, and he resigned on the seats in both Vienna Parliament and Czech Island Diet. So he remained out of the political life, at least actively. So the thing is that he was against the official politics of the party, so he started to focus on intellectual issues only, founding a journal Naše doba, Our Age, and well, he somehow showed his disagreement with Czech politics, and he didn't want to adapt himself to the party mainstream, so he criticized radicalism, but also the lack of vision of Young Czech Party. So Young Czech Party didn't have, from his point of view, any long-term vision, and that's why focusing on education. That's what his work was. He wanted to be, and that's typical for him, an independent player, and he was committed to his principles over the partisanship, and it makes him a unique person in Czech politics. And this affair and his leaving show that there is still a tension between the realism, which was rather a theoretical thing, than pure pragmatism, and national radicalism or national practical politics, which was represented by Young Czech Party. I'd like to mention those two ideological point of views. One is, I would say, a bit more deeper because it comes from the philosopher Tomáš Garrigue Masaryk. So the vertical stance, the idea of Czech politics and the Czech national development has been represented or has been summarized in Tomáš Masaryk's books, which was called Česká otázka, so the Czech question. So, and there is an aspiration of national revival. So it was the search for some kind of moral existential ideas which represent which stands behind the Czech national development. So Masaryk saw there is some kind of plan of providence that's based upon his Platonistic ideas, and there has been the question of conscience. So Masaryk argued with the very deep moral sense, and he was trying to find some kind of really deep moral or ethical backgrounds of the Czech national existence, which was not purely a political one. His important idea was obviously the humanism which comes not only from Herder, the German philosophical background, Hegel and Herder, but also it has a deep, I would say, deeper history in his studies of the English philosophy, especially so humanity as a ideal approach, which comes the religious culture and also Czech culture heritage, and also there is a presence of social values. So he was highlighting the Czech reformism, Hussitism, and the national revival was somehow connected with this kind of reformist approach. So something which has been inherited from the past, and he condemned the pure nationalism in both old and young Czech party, and he was into the kind of human-focused humanitarian approach, which should be implemented into Czech into a Czech active politics. So as I mentioned, there is a Platonism behind his thoughts, because he was originally focusing on the ancient philosophy during his studies in Vienna. There was the foundation. We can see there the reading of the German classical philosophers, and obviously a very sociology-based approach coming from the positivism of Auguste Comte. The response was quick. A year after, Josef Kaiser, the German leader of Young Czech Party, economist professor as well, the lawyer from the Charles University, the minister of the future government, responded with the book České myšlenky, which was published on published following year in English Czech Ideas. So it somehow criticized or discussed the ideas which were raised by Masaryk himself. He rejected the humanity approach, seeing that as a vague, some theoretical approach which cannot be implemented in real politics, and this try to argue with the political reality. So he was dissatisfied even in the historical approach. He criticized the link between Hussitism and national revival, and he was once again what was typically criticized by Masaryk, that he hated liberalism. So he emphasized the enlightened liberalism and nationalism as well as very influential motives and approaches during the 19th century. And he stood up on the pragmatic approach. That's why he was also in Ministry of Economics, and he was very focusing on the practice rather than some abstract ideas which cannot be used in real politics. So he was defending the Czech Party and as a responsible, pragmatic party which changed which abandoned radicalism after Nuremberg Congress, and showed that the party is ready for constructive government, so cooperating with government, and that's why he ended up being minister. So there is a difference between the long-term philosophical approach of Masaryk, someone who has been seen as a visionary of the new modern nation or society. So someone who criticized the Czech mediocracy, and someone who has been emphasizing moral historical mission of the nation and his own role, obviously, as we will see. And the pragmatist Keitzel, who argued with the economic ideas, practical dimension of nationalism, and so on. And it led to his ministership, being a Minister of Finance during the Thun government later on. And we can see that there is a certain political division which was really present. So there was the idealism and the pragmatism, but we can see also the division between the radicalism, focusing radically on social issues, but also on the issues like general suffrage, and those who've been dealing with the pragmatic politics, which was much closer to Vienna. We can see that the shift of young Czech political party, which followed the politics of all Czech parties. So if there is a chance to be actively to actively participate on politics, on governmental politics, there was a chance, and they saw that, and that's why Young Czech Party was seen in the end of the 1890s as a quite mild opposition you can cooperate with. So that's the end of my lecture, and then we will continue with electoral reforms under Kazimír Felix Pádny, the new Prime Minister. So, thank you very much.